Suppose your loved ones had been crushed 2,000 meters below the sea and the whole world was talking about it. What would you do the next day after the funeral? I know what I would do. I'd go on the BBC and do a tell-all interview, which is why I like the cut of this lady's jib. She's gone onto the BBC and told the world all about her family and how she's feeling, and of course this event is 100% real and my heart goes out to the families. She said something very interesting about her son. Apparently, he was quite the Rubik's Cube player. He was very talented. Take a look at this.
Starting now. Whoa! Great job!
Very impressive. So apparently, this young fellow never went anywhere.
Suleiman did not go anywhere without his Rubik's Cube.
Didn't go anywhere without his Rubik's Cube. Well, my friends, this sounds like a case for super agent John Le Bon, the brain of the apocalypse. Take a look at this from the very first edition of Super Agent John Le Bon. What do we see here in the corner? Why, nothing else but a Rubik's Cube. And so with that being the case, I say today we try and solve a little mystery, but not to do with the submarine. I think we've spoken enough about that one. We're going to talk instead about 9/11. Now, what does 9/11 have to do with a submarine that got crushed at the bottom of the deep blue sea, you might be asking? Very good question. Stay tuned. I'll make it all very clear. However, if time is of the essence and you need to rush, check the link in the info box below. This article, Transcending 9/11, normally available just to members of johnlebon.com, is available to you right now. Go and check it out. But I warn you, it's a little bit spooky. Now, let's move on with this. 9/11. What kind of clues are there to do with 9/11? Well, think about this. You've heard of the Rubik's Cube. You've also heard of Stanley Kubrick. The Cube brick. The Stanley Rubik's Cube, if you play with the words a little bit. Maybe that's a stretch, but let's take a look at this. Why, in the beginning of the film, we see a black monolith. This is 2001: A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Then at the end, we see the black monolith once again. But what does it remind you of? It reminds me of 55 Church Street, the Millennium Hilton, which was standing across from the World Trade Center in 2001 when this horrible event took place. Of course, 3,000 people lost their lives that day. My heart goes out to the families because that was 100% real event. Pan across here, we see the deep blue IBM supercomputer. If you take the letters IBM and just shift one letter in the alphabet for each of those, you come up with HAL, like hell. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, just stay with me. We see this, the ramp for the cleanup of this horrible disaster. Keep that in mind. Why, on the day of the event, it was right there, as I told you. And then we see the Hilton, the Space Station 5. Not to be confused with 55 Church Street. Yes, the Millennium Downtown New York Hotel. Millennium Downtown New York Hotel. But this was opened in the 1990s. In fact, it was completed in 1992. So what are the chances that this was built the best part of a decade before the horrible event, and it would look just like the black monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey? What are the chances? And what are the chances, my friends, that at 55 Church Street, the phone number would be 2001? But in 2001, this very same building was there for this incredible event that was, up until my coronas, the biggest event all over the world in recorded human history, some might say. What are the chances of that? And what are the chances that in the film, why, there's a puzzle, and the supercomputer seems a little bit too talented? Take a look at this.
Rook to King 1.
I'm sorry, Frank. I think you missed it. Queen to Bishop 3. Bishop takes Queen. Knight takes Bishop. Mate.
Yeah, looks like you're right. And I resign.
Thank you for a very enjoyable game.
Yeah, thank you.
Hell was a little bit too clever for the humans, or was he, in 2001: A Space Odyssey? Well, let's move on, shall we? That last scene that I showed you in the collage. Let's go back to that collage. I showed you this deep blue supercomputer. I also showed you that at the end, there's a hotel room, apparently, where David Bowman is trying to touch the black monolith. The black monolith that was right across from the World Trade Center that day. Just bear with me. What are the odds that in that very same film by Stanley Kubrick, not to be confused with the Rubik's Cube, while we have a replica of a hotel room that serves as a temporary location in unknown space and time for David Bowman to make his evolutionary transformation from flesh and blood into an energy being. That's according to Google. Why, let's continue here. You see this in 2001: A Space Odyssey. The monolith on the moon. How do they reach the monolith? Why, they go down this long ramp, don't they? It almost, if you didn't know better, looks a little bit like the very same ramp that we see walking up to the black monolith at 55 Church Street. This is indeed the cleanup zone of 2001 disaster at the World Trade Center. So what are the odds that it would look just like this scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey? What do you know about Deep Blue? Why, Deep Blue, this computer that I showed you on my collage, right in the middle there, this Deep Blue actually defeated a chess grandmaster, Garry Kasparov. The loss marked the first time that a computer had defeated a world champion in a match of several games. The first time a supercomputer had defeated a world champion. There it is. Deep Blue defeated Garry Kasparov. This was in 1997. In fact, the match started on May 11, 5/11, kind of like 55 Church Street. I've already shown you 55 Church Street. I'm not making any of this up. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comment section below. But there's more to go, folks. I'm just warming up. So Deep Blue was the first supercomputer to defeat a chess grandmaster. Not too dissimilar to how the HAL computer, HAL, IBM, HIABLM. What are the chances of that? This computer defeats Frank as part of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, if we take a look at the dates that are involved in all of this, what do we discover? If we go from 11 May 1997 to 7 March 1999, the result is 666 days. But where did 7 March 1999 come from, JLB? Why, that was the day that Stanley Kubrick, not to be confused with the Rubik's Cube, Kubrick, can you solve this puzzle? Why, he supposedly passed away on March 7, 1999. So, that's where the 7 March comes from. The day that Game 2 began between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov. From that day to the death of Stanley Kubrick inclusive is 666 days. What are the odds of that? Could just be a coincidence. Stanley Kubrick, of course, being the director who directed this film. Even Rocky had a montage. Take a look at this. The Deep Blue right in the middle. There is your black monolith at the beginning and at the end of the film, including in the hotel. This is the Millennium Hilton, 55 Church Street, as I showed you. Phone number ending in 2001. That was built before September 11. And of course, there's a Hilton on the space station in 2001, A Space Odyssey. Let's continue. If you take the date of Stanley Kubrick's supposed death through to the first day of 2001, what do you come up with? Why, 666 days again. So from the day of the beginning of Game 2, the game where the supercomputer defeated a Grand Chess Master for the first time in history in a multi-game chess match, you get 666 days. From that day to Stanley Kubrick's death, then from Stanley Kubrick's death to the beginning of 2001, you get 666 days. What are the odds of that? But guys, I'm just warming up, and if you like this kind of thing, check that link in the info box below. Transcending 9/11. We take a look at all of the clues. But I warn you, it's a little bit spooky. Okay, carrying on with the presentation then. Get this. Garry Kasparov held a World Championship match at the top of the World Trade Center. Believe it or not, this was back in 1995 on the 107th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center in New York. There was a back and forth match, but in the end, Garry Kasparov won 10.5 games to 7.5. How about that? Garry Kasparov, the very same Garry Kasparov who was defeated by the IBM Deep Blue, not to be confused with HAL, HAL, IBM, from 2001: A Space Odyssey, at the top of the World Trade Center. There he is, Garry Kasparov, winning a World Trade Center Grand Chess Master match to decide who is the best chess player at the top of the World Trade Center. Let's take a look at this.
The 1995 Intel World Chess Championship took place at the top of the world, as New Yorkers like to call the observation deck of the World Trade Center. The players would contest the match in a specially constructed soundproof booth, a goldfish bowl for the world's media to gawp into.
A goldfish bowl indeed, and that little room looks a little bit different to this promotional shot they had at the top of the World Trade Center. If you like these kind of clues, go and check out Transcending 9/11, The Groundwork, available right now. Link in the info box below, and leave your comments. What do you think about all of this? Is JLB going too far? Have I lost my mind? Have I taken the Stanley Kubrick Rubik's Cube? Have I taken this Super Agent John the Bond thing a little bit too far? John the Bond, the brain of the apocalypse. That's who you've just been watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments in the comment section below and check those links. But be warned, one day you might wake up finding yourself living in some strange little country surrounded by bizarre, contrarian people and wondering, what the hell am I doing with my life? Shimona!
It wasn't a tent, it was this magnificent thing.
Shit, they're lying to us!
With regard to nobody died, nobody got hurt in these wars.
How dare you!